Welcome to Denver Theory Lab.
Denver Theory Lab? Okay.
Denver Theory Lab. Let's do it.
Welcome to Denver Theory Lab. This is Jesse.
And I'm Kyle.
Where we aim to investigate and explore theoretical and practical ideas, conspiracies, events, and practices from an objective point of view to expand our range of thinking. To support us, you guys can make donations to Denver Theory Lab on PayPal at Denver Theory Lab, and you can contact us on Facebook, Instagram, or email us at denvertheorylab@gmail.com. Please send us any questions, comments, or suggestions.
So we're sitting here at Karma House and want to definitely thank Karma House for letting us be here and host this event here. And want to throw out here in the beginning that any of the views expressed here on the podcast do not reflect the views of Karma House. Only the individuals stating the views.
Okay, we're back again. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Kyle.
With Denver Theory Lab. We have Minuet on the microphone.
Hello.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your suggested topic is?
Yeah, so I currently just got done reading these two books. It's Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents by Octavia E Butler. I run a book club, and I'll come to Karma House and read my book. And I was talking with Jesse the other day, and he had asked me what I was reading, and I kind of gave a little breakdown of it, and then he asked me to come on the podcast.
So what is this book?
Okay, so Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. It was supposed to be a 3-book series, but the author had died, so she wasn't able to do the third. But basically, it's a dystopian novel about the U.S. It's very strikingly similar to what we are going through currently. Basically, it's Southern California, and it's on fire, and there's like a lot of climate change, political divide, social, economic divide, and they live in this community. This young girl named Lauren Olamina, and she lives with her family, and outside of their gated community, there's a lot of like homelessness, and they say like vagabonds, people kind of like running amok. There's a drug that had kind of taken over in certain areas, but basically she sees the human race is declining due to this, and all of the older folks are waiting for the good old days to come back. And the good old days would be basically what we're living in currently, and that doesn't happen. So eventually she escapes. Second book, she moves up Northern California, and she kind of starts this commune. And I don't know, there's so much to get into about this book.
Well, the things that I found most interesting was the correlation with today's current events. Yeah. And how we've spoken on previous podcasts about how some writers have predicted the future, so to speak, with some of their writings almost to the T.
Yeah.
And both of these books are written a decent amount of time before the current period, with the Parable of the Sower,
yeah,
1993, and the Parable of the Talents, 1998.
Yeah. So I'll read the back of Parable of the Talents real quick. This is kind of what hooked me. But she is a sci-fi writer, but a lot of people will say this is like very speculative fiction, just with the eerily similar storyline. So this is like what drew me in initially. I actually saw someone here reading this book, and I was like, reading my other book, and I was like, oh, what are you reading? Whatever. So I read the back of the second book, and it says, in 2032, Lauren Olamina has survived the destruction of her home and family and realized her vision of a peaceful community in Northern California based on her newly founded faith, Earthseed. The fledgling group provides refuge for outcasts facing persecution after the election of an ultra-conservative president who vows to make America great again. In an increasingly divided and dangerous nation, Lauren's subversive colony, a minority religious faction led by a Black woman, becomes a target for President Jarrett's reign of terror and oppression. Years later, Asha Veer reads the journals of a mother she never knew. So Asha Veer is Olamina's daughter. Lauren Olamina, as she searches for answers about her own past, she also struggles to reconcile with the legacy of a mother caught between her duty to her chosen family and her calling to lead humankind into a better future. So yeah, there's like so many different themes. Like I have been using this reading journal, and it's kind of helped me like digest the book after reading it. And the biggest themes that I'd written were, it's like dystopian America, change in general, survival, resilience, politics, spirituality, very prescient to our time. There's racism, there's a female protagonist, there's climate change, fascism, complexities of race, gender, power, and power in both like political, social, religious, spiritual. It's kind of like insane how much these two books cover.
I want to go back to the example that you gave me the other night, and maybe there's more examples, but I believe one of the examples was that the oppressive president or leader or whatever it was wanted to gather the homeless, and basically put them in concentration camps or remove them from the city, which I found incredibly close to what was happening in DC currently, days ago, that the current president had wanted to wipe out homelessness in DC and remove the slums and instate martial law to do so. Am I remembering all that correctly?
Yeah. So part of President Jarrett's whole regime that he has going on, they call it like Christian America, and part of that they have how do they word it? Re-education camps, basically. And so they were rounding up all of the like homeless people, the like people that would just wander the freeways because they didn't really drive cars in this book, like no one could afford gas. Prices spiked of everything. So yeah, a lot of homeless people. There is, I mentioned this earlier, there's like a drug that everyone was doing, basically, not everyone, but the addicts were doing. It was called pyro, whatever. So he's like rounding up those people. He's rounding up anyone that isn't like a conservative Christian, basically.
Do you think that in the story, does it seem like that drug has parallels with fentanyl in today's world? Because that's one of the things that they seem to use. That's the drug that ties directly in with immigration and, that they use to round people up.
Yeah, I would have to say no, but in a, how do I word this? So the drug, it's like pyro something. It was originally in the book used as kind of like an Adderall. It was like a intelligent drug. Like it would help you like think clearer, like whatever. But there was like some malfunctions with it or whatever, and people would become addicted, and then they would basically set things on fire. They quote it as like they would set things on fire, and it was better than sex. It just felt so good to set things on fire, and they would basically shave their heads and they would paint themselves different colors. So I guess like in a metaphorical stance of like burning everything to the ground, maybe relating to like fentanyl, because like there is that crisis. Or
is it an allegory for how our leadership class would rather burn everything down than build something with the gifts they're given?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, that's the thing with this book. It's like you could really take it and fit it into our current world in so many different ways. Specifically with that,
Make America Great Again part definitely, echoes Donald Trump. But with that one, a couple of presidents in recent times have said it. You've got Reagan, Clinton, and Trump who've all said it, But, kind of just doing a little bit of quick reading online for the books. It looks like Parable of the Talents. Is there an alien invasion that happens in this one?
No, so in Parable of the Talents?
Yeah.
No, so basically, I think, okay, so again, this is very dystopian, but she also is, at the bottom of it, she's a sci-fi writer. So basically, she like wants this the destiny of Earthseed. So we can get into this too, but she goes all into her own like conception of what God is and her own form of religion that kind of like mimics the evolution of like their God into like, or the Christian God into what this world looks like and what God would fit this world. And the destiny of Earthseed is to take root among the stars. So she basically wants humankind. She wants to see it from like a larger perspective. And she wants like humans to build colonies in space and on different planets. So,
well, because I see the Earth seed and preparing humanity for a future beyond Earth, and so I was like, okay, so it looks like there's a focus on space in the book as well.
Yeah, that's her very like sci-fi take on this like Earth dystopian.
Maybe that's where book 3 was going.
Yeah, that is actually. She had passed before she was ever able to write book 3. So yeah, 1993 was the first book. 1998 was the second book. And then she passed in 2006.
How did she die? I wonder if it was a suspicious death.
She fell in her house. She was like 58 or something like that.
Most people at 58 don't die after they fall.
Yeah, that part definitely sketches me out for sure. Apparently, I would need to read more into it if you're looking stuff up as well. But she apparently was struggling with health problems for several years prior, but I didn't see anything big or noticeable. But yeah, she died from falling in her house.
Huh.
Yeah, at 58.
Very interesting.
So let's see. Collapsed outside her home and struck her head on the driveway.
There it is. Yeah, something about her house and falling.
She had suffered a fatal stroke, which caused her to collapse. So, yeah, it's in the realm of possibility. Yeah. But a lot of times authors and people who seem to have a good job at echoing the future do meet untimely ends. And yeah, the books do have a lot that echo current times: climate change and resource scarcity, economic inequality, social breakdown, all going on, and the rise of authoritarian politics. We're living it,
100%. Even like the first book, it was based in the early 2020s. And that's when it was talking about like global climate change, economic crises. When we were mentioning with pyro and these like addicts lighting things on fire. And this is in California. Like California is actively on fire. The parallels are kind of insane with this book. Even in the second book, President Jarrett in the book, he runs for president in the second. And at the time, too, he was running against the current vice president.
Just like Trump running against Biden. So, in the book, one key part is religious extremism and religious fundamentalism. So I'm curious, in the story, did the religious extremism rise after the social breakdown, after society started to break down, or did the religious extremism and the dominance of the religious factions, did that come before the social breakdown? Was it a response to the social breakdown?
Not necessarily. So the first book, it's already happened. Like that whole social breakdown has already happened. They're kind of just existing. They're in like a post-apocalyptic limbo. So they're living in this community. She's kind of just seeing everything. She's like getting on edge, saying like, oh, this isn't going to last. Like the walls are going to come down eventually. And her dad's like, no, like we just have to wait for the good old days to come back. We have to wait for someone to fix our mess, basically. And those walls do come down. The people that like to light things on fire end up taking over the town, and she kind of escapes and she starts to go up to Northern California. But when that really came into effect her dad in the book is a preacher. So like religion was still a thing, like Christianity is still a thing in the book. But the very extremism end came when President Jarrett ran. That is when it like fully went to its extreme lengths. Or maybe people came out of the woodworks, which again, parallels are very eerie.
That the majority of the radical things happened after that president came in the story.
Yeah. So like actively as he was running, that is when stuff kind of hit the fan. And then he went into office in the book, and they call them like his crusaders, Jarrett's crusaders, and those they wear all black garments with a white cross on it, which like also kind of mimics the KKK's garments. And they are all about like cleansing humanity. And Olamina's whole thing, when she did escape, she was actively writing this thing called like Earthseed Books of the Living. And that was like her conception of a higher power. So she was seeing her dad as a preacher, talking about like, oh, we need the good old days to come back, like this God is like powerful. And like when you see it too, the Christian God is like, you fear that God sometimes. And so she saw that, and she saw all these older folks waiting for the good old days to come back. And she was like, if we ever get back to a point of like normalcy, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the good old days. Like it's going to be something completely different because of the way that like our society and our economy and everything has collapsed. And I think in the first book, she was around, I want to say like 12, 14-ish. So seeing that and probably having a lot of emotional trauma from witnessing all of this happen and being on edge and being in fear, she started to explore the possibility of like a changed God, and her God is change. One of the quotes, the book is formatted really cool. Like each chapter, it's a different verse from Earthseed Books of the Living. So one of them is, all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. And then she says, God is change. And her God, people will say, is like very cold or whatever, but it's fitting for the situations that she's going through. So she found like comfort in that change, and like God is clay, God is malleable. Like I shape God, God shapes me. Situations will shape me and God, and all of that. So it kind of fit like, okay, the earth is changing. We're changing as a society. God is also changing.
So assuming that the world we're living in is moving down the paths that the world went down in that book, what advice would you have, being that you've read the books, to navigate these changes as we got to live through them?
Oh, yeah. One of the like most prominent things that like stood out to me in this book as far as like applying this to my own life is like truly just learning everything. Like I don't know everything. I wrote this down too. One of the quotes was, I realize I don't know very much. None of us knows very much, but we can all learn more. Then we can teach one another. We can stop denying reality or hoping it will go away by magic. And I think that's one of the like biggest fatal human flaws, is like thinking you know everything, or like what I know is right, or you know what I mean? Like I think that's the biggest struggle, is like thinking you're right or thinking you know everything, because then it needs to be this specific way that I think. Like learning, truly just like learn. Even this book, like reading this book made me want to go buy books about like native plants in areas that I live, because they start to like live off of the plants. Eventually in the second book, Olamina and her group kind of get captured and enslaved by Jarrett's crusaders. And for 18 months, she tells them, like, we can't fight back right now. We need to learn. We need to learn what they do, how they do it, and like find out their weak spot and see if there is a way we can escape. If we try right now, we will die. Like we need to learn. We need to educate ourselves. And I think a lot of people need educating, and a lot of people need perspective, and a lot of people need to try their best to put themselves in other people's shoes. That is like another huge fatal flaw, is not putting yourselves in other people's shoes and not willing to learn, or not willing to like okay, maybe I don't know this. Maybe I don't know the answer. Like, let me learn it or hear it or not think that I know everything and that I'm always right.
Being open to different ideas, I think, is a key part of being successful in life. But you said in the story they started to live off plants. So did the food supply break down?
Not necessarily. Things just became way more expensive. And I know that so their little commune basically that they build is called Acorn. They make acorn bread all the time, and that is what like a lot of indigenous cultures would do, like in America. It's like make things like that, you know.
Was
'cause
this one of the learning camps that they got rounded
no,
up into?
so they migrated up north and they made their Camp Acorn. Jarrett's Crusaders came in, captured it, renamed it Camp Christian, and made it a re-education camp. But prior to that, like wheat was still a thing for like wheat bread, but it was just so expensive that people could not get their hands on it. So a lot of the like smaller communities, like flashback to Olamina's like family's community, like they had different fruit trees, they had different nuts, and they had different whatevers, and they like grew a lot of plants. You could go out and buy things, but like I said, it was just really expensive. And a lot of the jobs in the book, if you were to land a really good job, it was like really hard or really like scarce jobs. And then a lot of the jobs, like middle class jobs, would basically just give you like room and board. So you wouldn't have much money to even like sustain yourself separately from that. And so like a lot of people would steal or things, you know?
Well, one thing I'm taking away from this is, hey, if the book is in any way indicative of the future in which we're moving into, then it would be good to learn ways of being more self-sufficient.
100%. There's a group coming up soon. It's learning like different trades. I saw it like on one of the flyers here, and I was like super interested. Basically, different community members here getting together and sharing their knowledge on like different trades or sewing or things like that. Like
Madison mentioned that.
yeah, that's like so smart. Like it's all about like community learning from each other, her specific group. And yeah, it definitely has put into perspective like what I would do if I were in that situation. And it definitely like I would want to learn how to start a fire. Like you see like the movies and they like scout like Boy Scouts camps and they like can start a fire from scratch. Like I don't know how to do that. Like I would love to learn how to do that, you know?
So out of all the aspects of the book that are, you know, dystopian in nature, if you had to pick one that you would say you least like, you know, it's the one you most don't want to see in the world. Like it's the one you would least like to see, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
What part of the dystopian future in the book would that be?
You know, I can't really say that because it's already currently happening, I feel like. But I guess to the extreme point is like the ultra conservative, like super religious president in the book. And it's the whole like know-it-all of like everyone needs to live by this God and everyone needs to live by this way. And that's not like human nature. And we're kind of going through that. Obviously, these books are way more extreme, but it is like a warning symbol. It's like, oh my gosh, if like the things that are happening, like you were talking about with DC, if that can happen to someone, like so can it to us. I know we had a little bit of a conversation about people getting deported and like the whole rounding up illegal immigrants or immigrants, period, because at the end of the day, if you don't give them due process, then how can they even prove that they are an illegal immigrant or a legal immigrant? I could be born in the US and they could come and grab me because my skin is a certain color and they could say, oh, you're an illegal immigrant, we're taking you. Okay, well, I can't even prove it because I can't have due process. Like things like that. And this is what's happening in this book. There was a neighboring community next to them that ended up getting captured and taken to that Christian relearning camp. And they weren't even doing anything illegal because he was saying, we're going to round up the people that are growing marijuana. We're going to round up the people doing this and this and that. And they owned their land and they didn't grow illegal substances. And what did it matter? Because at the end of the day, they still got captured and they still got put in those camps.
Did they have a different ideology than the people who captured them? Because I think in today's world, the real threat from the authoritarian state is not just that they're deporting people whose immigration status is questionable. It's that they seem to be deporting people who have viewpoints that the administration doesn't like. So, any migrant who is vocal about the Israel-Gaza conflict, they're at the top of the government's list. It seems to get rounded up and kicked out of the country. So it seems like the real crime in their eyes is having the wrong opinion.
Yeah, that's such a huge issue. I have no idea. I know that in the book, Olomina finds them and asks them why, and they're like, I don't know. But I know that in the book, he was saying it was the people that are living on land that isn't theirs, and like saying, they got captured because, they were seen as like these Satanist cults because they didn't believe in this Christian God. So I'm not too sure about that specific family, but regardless, that's a big issue because we are human and we are going to have different opinions. And why do I need to force someone to have the same opinion as me to coexist? And then she also worded it really well. There was I would have to kind of glance and look at it, but she basically says like, they spew all of this hatred for us and all of this, like, you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to believe in this way. And like, God forbid you're gay or da-da-da-da-da. But it's covered up with love, right? Because like, we need to love everyone. Like, love thy neighbor is literally what the fucking Bible says. Sorry, can I curse?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, that's what it says. That's what it says.
Curse all you want.
And your actions don't align. It makes zero sense to me. And so this book, it felt like reading this book, I was looking at what we're going through in like a dramatized way, but like on the outside of it, because like we're in it, we're kind of in, not as dystopian as this for sure. But I got to like kind of step out of myself and look at everything going on in a different perspective, like reading about it of someone else going through kind of what we're going through. It was just such a weird like thing to read. I don't know. It was a really good book.
Yeah, it does seem like in the world today, on both sides of the aisle, we're unfortunately moving to a spot where people less and less seem to respect the viewpoints of those who they don't agree with. Where the default, it seems, in the mainstream is that those on the other side, those who have a different view than whatever your side believes, they must think differently because they're evil. There can't be any other reason why anyone would have a difference of opinion, and that's a really dangerous thing. Any free society, any group of people that want to cooperate, you have to be able to disagree with someone and accept the disagreement.
Yeah, and I don't get it because it's like what is your favorite color, Kyle?
Blue.
Okay, what's your favorite color?
Not blue.
Not blue. See? And why you need to
it's
like
clearly
blue.
because he worships Satan.
Oh yeah, duh.
Yes.
Duh.
It's
See, it's like
no, it's because I'm wearing black
that doesn't make sense to me.
and I like Satan. I'm kidding.
But it's like, why are you so evil if you literally just think something different? And if it's not affecting you or affecting whoever else, if it's only affecting your own life, I don't get the issue. I saw this meme recently and I thought it was really funny. It was when they're like super homophobic people and they're like, you can't be gay, da da da. And it's like, why are you so mad about like having sex with a man who is a man? Like, why are you so mad about that? It sounds like jealousy, maybe. Why are you so concerned? Like, you are the one thinking about this. Like, how is two men separately going to affect
Why do you have such an obsession with something that doesn't agree with your lifestyle?
That's what I'm saying. And so, yeah, I again, circling back to the, like, not thinking you're always right about everything. It truly does not make sense to me. Like, they were just living in their own little commune over there. They weren't affecting anyone else but themselves. They weren't going up to these Christian crusaders saying, you guys need to stop being Christian crusaders. You need to become a part of Earthseed because this is the only way we're going to survive. They were like, okay, if people believe us, then cool. If they don't, cool.
Kyle, didn't you say the other day that there's a big push for ICE to no longer wear badges or uniforms and have the ability to start profiling groups of people? And
they're pushing. They're in the Supreme Court right now, waiting on the Supreme Court to decide. But there's a case where they would like to have permission to profile people based on what they look like. So being Hispanic and speaking Spanish. So based on what language they speak and what they look like, they want to be able to profile on that.
With no due process.
Well, that's not to say that has nothing to do with what comes after. Mm-hmm. After you're arrested, the due process happens after you're arrested. But right now, if I'm a cop or working for ICE,
they need probable cause now.
Yeah, you can't I can't stop you just because you look Hispanic and you're speaking Spanish.
But that's what they're trying to do.
That's what they're asking the Supreme Court.
They're saying that is our way of
they're saying
probable cause.
That should be enough for us to believe that they might be here illegally.
See, that's insane.
That's insane. That is insane. And I mean, what we were saying the other day is, I mean, you just have to wonder, is the point to make us outraged? Sometimes I wonder if it's just like they're just sitting around in a room going like, well, we've got to get them to quit talking about Epstein. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
I talk about race.
Yeah. Let's make them focus on race again.
Yeah. There's 100 different reasons. And I think doing that, they're killing like 1,000 birds with one stone. For sure. Why did we stop looking at the Epstein list? That's weird. Why are you saying that we can do probable cause just by the way someone walks and talks and looks? Makes no sense. That's insanity. But they're doing it and they have the power to do it. Like, that's crazy. There was a quote, actually, I'll read this real quick from the book I wrote down because I couldn't find the page count. And this is, I think it was the opening chapter to President Jarrett coming into like office in the book. And it says, choose your leaders with wisdom and forethought. To be led by a coward is to be controlled by all that the coward fears. To be led by a fool is to be led by the opportunists who control the fool. To be led by a thief is to offer up your most precious treasures to be stolen. To be led by a liar is to ask to be told lies. And to be led by a tyrant is to sell yourself and those you love into slavery. And yeah, so like literally reading this book and having everything, opening up my phone and seeing something new and crazy happening every single day. It was just such a crazy read. Again, while everything is going on. But I do think people are crazy enough to genuinely want like what you said, or is it a distraction? I think it's kind of both.
Well, yeah, I think it's both. It's a tool from the people at the top of anytime the people at the bottom start getting a little too unmanageable, make them fight each other, find ways to make them fight each other.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think authors like Octavia Butler are able to write these books that seem to predict the future almost, because they just look at the world as it is in that moment and the trends and kind of follow it naturally. And as we're living it, it's kind of hard to. But if you look at the trends in the world and where it's heading, it makes a lot of sense of how you could see that this is the direction in which things are going.
Yeah, totally. I mean, even everything that's kind of going on right now in certain aspects, this isn't, in my opinion, this is a very fascist regime that's going on in the US right now. This isn't the first time a fascist has like taken control of office. Like if you look at Germany, look at that. Look at the concentration camps. Look at them burning books. Look at them doing this and that. And they had like propaganda against queer people. They had look at pictures of concentration camps and look at pictures of some of the ICE like detention camps. Like this isn't the first time. So like I've been asked this question, like, oh, like that's so crazy. Like how did she kind of predict it? And truthfully, I don't think she's like a psychic. I don't think she's a psychic. I think she was just very aware of like negative human nature. And then also, like I said, there's this, there have been a lot of fascists in our human lifetime.
You know, unfortunately, I think both sides of the aisle in this country are really in favor of what's happening right now and the way things are going. You know, and the Nazi Germany happened, but at the same time when that was happening, we had camps then too. We put Japanese people in camps back then. So there's always a tendency there for people to slip into more authoritative systems. I feel like, and it's something that we've always got to guard against. But we're living at one of those times again where the people in charge are trying to tighten the vice grip, I think, on all of us.
That was a part of the book that I definitely highlighted the most was she talks about like, no matter what, like we will survive. We will find a way through this. We will survive. We've done it once. We've done it twice. We've done it again and again and again in lifetimes. Like we can, I have hope. Like I truly have hope that like we will get through these tough times. I always say this even just to myself in like normal situations. I'll say like, whatever it is, like it will be okay. Whatever okay is, it will get there. And you look at all of those past things, like people have survived and gotten through those hard times. It happens again because we don't learn from our mistakes.
Well, we do, but time goes on. But you know, even the title of those books is a hopeful one. Both the Parable of the Sower and the Parable of the Talents. Those are biblical stories that are both all about using what God gives you and are using your natural talents to take, you know, not put a religious spin on it, using your natural talents to do good in the world, even if you might not have everything, you know, use what little you have to affect some good change.
There's always a duality too of good and evil. And eventually there's a balance of power. And even if evil does win, eventually evil will destroy itself and good will emerge from there somehow.
Yeah.
She does take the religious spin, like you said. At the end of the second book, she does like the quote of like Parable of the Talents. I never read the Bible, so I wouldn't really be sure. But I know that she quotes like, it's because in the story, Olamina's father is a preacher. And so like she still does tie things to it. She's not hateful of the Christian like belief system. Like she's not like, she doesn't hate it. She grew up around it. She just doesn't fully believe like they do. And that's okay. That's why she came to believe in her own conception of a higher power. And so, distinctly why these things are named this. She directly quotes it, and she directly quotes when her father like speaks about these experiences. Like he was a preacher. She grew up listening to him preach at their church or whatever in their neighborhood, in their community. Her brother ends up surviving their original family community like burning. He ends up surviving. She finds him way later, and he ends up becoming a preacher or pastor, whatever, for Christian America, like Jarrett's Christian Crusaders, Christian America, whatever. Like he ends up becoming like part of that group. And she is still like, I love my brother, Mark. Like I love him. I'm trying to visit. Like they will kind of sit and talk here and there. And she's like, I know that you are not like them, but this is what happened to me and my people in Acorn. Her like when she branches off into NorCal. And so she's not like hateful of that specific religion. She just doesn't like it when these crusaders are coming in and telling her what to do and putting literal slave collars on her people in Acorn and renaming it a Christian re-education center with no way of leaving.
Let's hope the real world doesn't go that far down the tracks of the book, you know?
I hope not either. I don't, you never know, but I think that we as like a society, especially here in America, like we have a lot of power still. Like it might not seem like it, but I truly don't think we could I don't know. I'm just very hopeful. Like I can be very pessimistic, but I can also be very hopeful. And I don't think we would let it get to that. I mean, it's already to that point in certain aspects, but I do believe in us, though.
I really appreciate you joining us tonight, Minuet.
Yeah.
It's very enlightening and hopefully not too disheartening that we might be going down that same path.
Sounds like two great books.
Yeah, two great books. You want to tell us the name and the author real quick one more time?
Yeah. It is Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents by Octavia E. Butler.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, you can make donations now to support our podcast on PayPal at Denver Theory Lab. Okay. Well, guys, thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, or you can email us at denvertheorylab@gmail.com. Give us questions, comments, suggestions. If you want to disprove any of our theories or talk smack, feel free to message us at denvertheorylab@gmail.com.
Send us cool stuff to look into.